Buongiorno, Mondo, and welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast. I am delighted to be here with my guest today, Vea Chen. Good morning, Vea, or buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Thanks so much for coming to the podcast today. And I want to start by asking you a question to sort of set the stage, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about how we first met. But you have such an interesting story. You're originally from China. You studied in Singapore, and now you're living in Florence. So I hope you'll share with our listeners today a little more about your journey to Italy. So why are you here? So what are you doing here, Vea?
So now I'm currently studying polymoda. At the same time, I'm working on my own projects. I'm trying to build a company with several collaborators. And the reason why I came from east to west, just like my whole life journey, it's like I always have curiosity to know the world because understanding the Eastern culture for me is not enough. And since young, I was always like interested in the Western world. So I went to Singapore. Singapore is kind of an international city that you can see a lot of studies in Singapore how Eastern and Western culture clash and they harmonize in this city. So it's very interesting seeing and actually the mindset and the working company cultures or working ethics is mostly American way. And pop culture are also American, like the food also. And but they have like a foundation of Oriental philosophy and especially rooted in Asian in the quite old generations. And so during that period of time, I was kind of always thinking, is this the right path for me? Is my career the right path for me? And I used to work in a company that produced perfumes for luxury brand, like Italian luxury brand, like Gucci, Dolce Gabbana, and Hugo Boss.
Okay.
So I had this experience in luxury, and I feel like I quite like it. And then I went to medical device, which I cannot find myself like I can find myself really you know um, fulfilling when I'm serving a patient. I'm trying to save people, but I'm not just very fascinated by technology because it's kind of cold, give people cold feeling. And in fact, the whole Singapore is a country filled with technology and fast-paced um, rhythm. And sometimes we don't have a lot of art, so sometimes after work, the activity we're just going shopping or just go home watch TV. It's not so much visual stimulating activities around. And I always felt like I love art. I wanted to be an artist. And during the vacation in Japan, I had like a constant dream of like every dream in the evening was repeating themselves, and it was always about I'm doing fashion.
You were actually dreaming this while you were sleeping on vacation in Japan?
Yes.
And you were having these recurrent dreams?
Recurrent dreams. And like every evening were the same thing, like I'm sewing clothes or I'm kind of working at a brand, or I can see like fashion brands coming like in the dream, things like that. So it was always repeating the same signals that I have to probably have to consider a career in fashion. And in fact, during the time, like many of my friends were also discussing with me, like, do you want to really consider, like, what would you want to be the career for your whole life? And I was thinking, oh no, I don't want to do the things I'm doing now. I want to do something different. And then when the dream was coming, I got connected. When I wake up, I say, okay, they say that if seeing the reality could relate to the dream, probably the dream has some meaning. Otherwise, it's nonsense. So I tried to test the reality. Like I tried to find a friend, Singaporean friend, to ask him to refer to me a Italian fashion expert who has a company
Let me stop you just for a
sorry.
second. Why? No, don't apologize. Why Italy though? What in the dream was
Well,
leading you to Italy?
Oh, not really that.
Ah,
Yeah, actually, I just asked him to refer to me someone that in working fashion.
so he
Then
was your one point of reference already in the fashion world. It was just a
yeah,
coincidence that it was Italy.
it's a coincidence because
Okay.
he just referred to me an Italian, which I didn't expect it.
Okay.
From Florence, with from a noble family from Florence, and he married a Japanese, so that he was the first person that is really like having a fashion company that I was talking to for my whole life, because before I never had the chance. So I talked to him that probably like what would it be like to work in the fashion industry and what kind of things. If I want to work in the fashion industry, I want to work on sustainability. It's like an immediate thought that I have. Like I want to do work on some sustainable fashion that is also beautiful. I just tell him my idea. He said, "Oh, it sounds quite interesting." And for young people like you, if you really want to see if you're fit into the fashion, you could try to apply first to a school, and you can try with the school if you really like it or not. Because if you don't go to Italy to study fashion, you will not understand fashion. So after, why Italy, not France? I said, of course, Italy is better.
That's funny because that's one of my questions
Yeah,
for you. Because of
that's
all the places you could have studied in the world, right? Why did you, I mean, why did you come to Florence? Because you could
yeah,
have gone to London, New York, Milan, Paris, a million other
yeah,
places. So it was just because of this sort of this random Florentine connection, or was there also
yeah.
something maybe in the dream
Yeah,
that
until now
suggested,
it sounds
uh,
quite random, right? It
right?
doesn't
It
sound
does
very
a little.
practical. Yeah, yeah, because I missed one point. About 10 years ago, when I was in university, I had a half a year student exchange program in Paris. So I really went to Paris, which was always the city I want to be, and definitely was the city of fashion. And then during that period, I had also a weekend travel to Italy. And when I reached Florence, I found that this is a city that I feel so connected to. And the energy is so profound, and the stories of Medici were so amazing. I really want to know more about the city, and I was staying there for only 2 nights. And in my life, I always think I want to go back to Florence. I even named my like Gmail address with the Florence in it, and then I put Florence postcards on my office desk for several years. So that all these things, this like subconsciously I was doing, feel like for me, when the Italian guy said you have to go to Florence to study fashion, I feel like okay, probably this is something that that I really feel interested about.
Yeah.
But definitely, 10 years ago when I was in Paris, that was still fine. The city was still fine, but still all my friends got robbed and stolen. It is something I can talk about in the podcast
It's
about
fine.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I just start to feel like dangerous to go to Paris, and every time I go there, I have to be accompanied by a friend. And I also research about the fashion school there. Definitely, if it's not Italy, then definitely it's Paris. Like I will not go to um, um, like cosmopolitan city to study fashion, because probably my interpretation of fashion is fashion has to be rooted in art. Maybe Antwerp could be a choice because it's really like the culture of fashion, the culture of art is quite good in the
Yes.
Royal Academy. Well, but yeah, it's quite difficult to get to Antwerp. But my situation, I would say that my connection to Florence, like a long-term connection, really lead me here. And definitely I was kind of curious to kind of do a little adventure of my life to test if the dream is real or but it was quite interesting that after I applied polymode, everything was very smooth. So I also spent several months time, like more, even more, like half a year actually, just traveling in Japan. And those travel even enhanced my um, kind of determination to do fashion, because in Japan you saw many independent even startup brands that are founded by Japanese, and they're using or natural dyeing or natural processes of production, especially for like silk, textiles, denim. and you saw how Japanese philosophy kind of reinforce the connection between human and nature. And then when you read again the news of how fashion luxury industry is polluting the environment, it's like one of the most polluting industry in the world. How fast fashion um, is they keep producing new collections every season, and then they burn or landfill them in India, things like that. I felt like the Japanese way of thinking and way of treating objects, with respect, objects that is come from nature, produced by hands, and eventually in harmonious like companionship with human being. I really feel like this is something really inspire me, and I would carry this philosophy along with me if I will eventually work in fashion.
I think you already are, Vea. I mean, your visions and your creativity. I I want to ask you a lot of follow-up questions. But one is I'd like to quote something that you said, because when you talk about fashion, one of the things you said is that your ultimate aspiration is that of adding color, beauty, slow fashion, and human touch to people's lives. So I think it's obviously a part of this discovery you had in Japan. This is your goal. Um, how how are you doing that? In other words, you're here in Florence, you're studying at Polimoda, and I want to hear a little more about that. But how are you thinking about putting into practice this very lofty goal of yours? Um, at a certain point, you also speak about the healing powers of the things that we wear. And I want to hear more about that as well, because what you're doing is you're taking on basically a whole industry, a very big industry, and you have all these ideas of how to bring about change within those industries. And as you say, bring this human touch back into things, and also this healing power, which are things I've not heard before. We hear a lot about sustainability. We hear a lot about craftsmanship. We hear a lot about respecting traditions, customs, going back to, for example, the great the craftsmanship here in Italy, but not only. So tell me about your vision, this vision of fashion that you have.
Yeah, because actually, I think like many people believe in color therapy, that like color can really influence the emotions. It's just that people probably didn't like it has not become a mainstream culture to believe that clothes could really influence our daily life. Maybe in the history, in the tradition, there was clothes has always symbolism, and people has to choose different color when they do different things and go to different occasions. It's just that in the modern culture we lose all this knowledge. And I think to create something with a healing power, definitely this object has to be have to be crafted with a happy craftsman.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then definitely the material has to be very kind of totally natural, cannot have chemical in it, because when we understand energy, energy flows freely within our natural realms, not with chemicals added to it. Afterwards, I think definitely the person who wears the objects has to have a positive mind, and all these things is we're not only talking about just a fashion item, we're talking about a lifestyle, like an attitude towards life. And what I envision like a future of fashion brand is definitely not only objects, but lifestyle brands, and even lifestyle brands that connecting with hospitality industry or food or a restaurant. Something that people can feel that like just like going to a restaurant to have a beautiful meal. Fashion would be something similar, because I feel like a lot of I was always thinking like why a lot of people are not into fashion, because they never try to understand what fashion is about and what fashion means to them. And also because fashion industry try to close themselves up and they don't open gates for normal people to join the runway, so people feel like okay, they just play by themselves, they don't care about what they're doing. So but I feel like fashion is so important because everyone is wearing clothes, and everyone and everybody is seeing like their friends and their family members what they're wearing. They're seeing them every day and it's just in front of their eyes and moving objects, and what's happens if they dress up terribly versus they dress up in color and sophistication. Just imagine like 200 years ago when everyone was so sophisticated with beautiful lace, beautiful hats, and at that time how was the mood if you live in that era, and how it would be the mood nowadays?
Not very good, Bea. No, I mean, just based on how, I mean, we were together just a little, we've been talking about this, for an hour or so, just sort of observing how people dress and talking about, these various moments of fashion sort of through the ages. And we're very far away from that right now, and I'm intrigued by what you say because I hadn't thought about it like that before, but also sort of the person who's making what I'm wearing, right? I mean, the fact that an object can bring with it brings with it a story, it brings with it an energy, something that you feel good about wearing because you know that somebody's being treated with equity and they're being, they're maintaining maybe a centuries old tradition, or they're putting, their very special care into creating something that will not only give you, shelter from the cold or what have you, but it will hopefully change your outlook. I mean, that's basically what you're saying. I mean, then it becomes something that permeates all other areas of your life, right? So then it becomes a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, because I think that since the modern society, the industrialization, the technology has pulled people away from really sophistication in the physical world. Also, art is the interesting art is almost being lost in many modern cities. Just like how I came from in Singapore, people I never basically it's seldom that people talk about arts. It's very sad situation. But I feel like art is something that the creator has given to the human being since the beginning. I mean, and Florence definitely is a place where you want to really discover the roots of art for everything. The art of not only the art of Renaissance, also the art of living, the art of food, the art of agriculture, the art of fashion. You see, that's another reason that I choose Florence was the connection between me and Florence. Also because I feel like if you come here, you can find the roots of everything. Then when you find the roots, you feel grounded, and then you can develop your idea or your or your project from there. And it doesn't matter the next city you go, because here is everything. You have to start from here, and it's how I feel. Florence has this mission for since pandemic. I feel like there's a whole refreshing of civilization going on.
Yeah,
it's like something has to restart.
Exactly.
Like pause and restart. So Florence could be the place. And I reconfirmed that since I came to Florence, I found so many like-minded people, so many talented people chose to come to Florence. Not just they can't go to other places, they chose to come here because they felt that there is something to be rediscovered, inspired by the Renaissance.
Wow. Yes. And I'm so glad that you brought this up because I think when you and I met, and I'm going to tell the story of how we met because I always have to tell these stories on my podcast because our story is also a very good one. But when you and I met, I was feeling that energy, and and it was something that you and I think, connected on very early on. And so I'll tell the story. I never take the bus. And I had to take the bus one day, and I was waiting at the bus stop, and there you were. And I couldn't figure out I couldn't get a ticket on my phone. I was having a hard time. And I asked you a question about the tickets, and then you said, I don't know if this bus is ever coming. I've been waiting for the bus forever. And I said to you, I know there's a strike tomorrow. And you said such a funny thing that stuck with me. You said, well, maybe today is just the dress rehearsal. And I said, would you like, and I think you said, where are you going or something? We figured out we were going more or less in the same direction. I said, listen, let's share a cab. And I really wanted to talk to you because you told me you were, originally from China, you studied in Singapore. In those 3 minutes that it took to walk to the taxi stand, you told me a little bit about yourself and that you were studying at Polymode. And I told you about the podcast. And I was like, oh, I need you on the podcast. This was like September, maybe, right? October. Yeah. It was early in the school year. And it was, October. And then we get in the cab, and the minute we get in the cab, my phone starts ringing. And I can't talk to you, and I want to talk to you. And the taxi ride wasn't that long. And I remember saying, listen, I want to pay for the taxi, but I want you to promise me that you'll get in touch with me and let me make this up to you and take you out for a coffee. And because I really did want to talk to you. There was something that drew us to each other that day. And I really did want to talk to you. And so I was happy that we ended up actually then WhatsApping and then getting together and then really talking more about your amazing projects. And so I want to just go back to a couple of things you said, because I was really intrigued when I met you, because I thought you were like an undergraduate student at Polymoda. And I was like, oh, you're studying here like as an undergraduate. And you're like, no, I'm studying fashion for other reasons. And I remember though that I think it was on that first occasion, or maybe it was the second time we met, that we talked about aesthetics. And I remember you're speaking about, living in Italy and the aesthetics. And I want to know now, having lived here for a while, how that does affect you on a daily basis. You speak about the dearth of, a scene or people talking about art when you were living in Singapore, and being able to come to a place like Florence and feeling grounded. I love that. But feeling like, okay, here I am. This is where a lot of stuff started. And I think there are a bunch of places in the world where you can feel like that. But how does it feel to be a creative person in Florence right now? And what does fashion mean to you?
Yeah, so just the first question.
Okay.
Yeah, the aesthetic. Yeah, definitely. When I first arrived here, even the cars on the streets are laid out in a beautiful color palette. I was like, okay, even Fiat know how to patch colors well. And then definitely not to say all the arts in the museum, when you go there, you feel like you're taking a bath. It's like a bath in art, and then you just feel like whole refreshed, like your eyes are brighter and you see things like in different colors. I feel like art, it definitely is that influence a person subconsciously a lot, like much more than what you can think with your logic, After I go to Uffizi after 3 days, the effects start to emerge in me. And through when I try to do any design, when I try to do any graphic, I felt like my use of color has changed totally compared to when I first came here. I was doing a lot of things that looks very technological. Yeah, it definitely was influenced from Singapore. But now my color palette has changed. It's becoming Italian. It's becoming, bright, and definitely, your aesthetic just not only influence how you do design, also how you dress, how you see your surrounding, how you see the people around, how you perceive visuals, how you read messages from visuals, and then also how you organize your house. Like every aspects of life are changed based on the aesthetic, based on what you see every day. So it's so important to live in a beautiful place, and not only the city, also the room, the house, things like that. So I can understand why a lot of people sacrifice themselves to come to live in Italy, although there are many inconveniences, tax and slow bus. I'm not talking about
buses that never
slow fashion and slow bus.
Slow fashion and slow buses, yeah.
Yeah.
Or invisible buses because the bus
yeah,
never showed up that day.
Yeah, just for certain people, like people who are born for arts, we really cannot see ugly things. It's just depressing. And I also believe it's for all human beings. It's not, although some people they're not interested in art, but still it's important to have an aesthetic around.
Absolutely. And so in addition to seeing the way so you see the sort of concrete effects of studying here, living here, how it's affected your craft, but how has it affected the way you define fashion? You have a very particular way of defining fashion, looking at the importance of fashion, and also you have strong opinions on what's wrong with fashion today. How have those changed, gotten stronger, etc., since you've been living here in Italy?
Well, honestly, I feel like my opinion on fashion also are kind of influenced from my experience when I was working as a white collar, girl in Singapore, because I can relate much more from a normal like consumer point of view. When I go into the fashion school, I can see like from a consumer point of view what's wrong with fashion when they are not when many designers when they design something they probably no one how can I say like for example when we are in Singapore I was just looking for a bag that can fit a laptop and go to work, but I can't find it. And like not only like fit the laptop, you have to have a little pocket for laptop.
Yeah.
But I can't find a bag like that. And just like a very simple thing. And I can't find enough nice looking clothes. So that was the situation, even for winter, there's just not so many nice clothes for winter. Everything looks so similar. Just like from consumer point of view, I know what is the problem. So, and then I can understand in the fashion school when they teach you to do something, when you teach you to build a dream, I can understand, okay, when this thing go to reality, the mainstream, how they will react to it. Maybe they will appear to a very niche client space, but when the current situation of economy, you cannot not always build a brand upon niche clients. You will never be able to have a so solid foundation in the society. Also, I, as from a non-fashion background, coming to the fashion world, I can see why fashion is not does not attract interest from the mainstream people anymore, like 100 years ago. I can see the reason, like why I like beauty, but when I was working in Singapore, I was not into fashion. How I saw fashion, how my friends, also beautiful girls, how they saw fashion, how they feel that what fashion are doing, like on the runway every year. For them, they couldn't understand what you see. These are the problems that I already know, and I want to kind of create a fashion really for the mainstream, really could shift how the people in society, how they dressed, not only to be successful in the small world of fashion, but also to definitely to appeal to the general audience. And coming back to your question about how Italy has shifted my understanding of fashion, definitely Italy, the lifestyle in Italy is completely opposite with what I had in Singapore, where there was totally technological convenience. Everywhere you go, there's air conditioning everywhere, and then everything was so smooth, so fast, and you don't have to carry cash with you, and everything was punctual on time. When you come to Italy, it's like you drop from a machine-made world, an artificial world, come to human world. Because when human, there is human that make mistake. Humans are late. Humans are
messy,
imperfect,
imperfect. Right.
So and I have to even go to grocery shops, so it's a different grocery shop for different things. It's really coming back to like my grandpa's situation. I was like, but I still feel like I started to enjoy it in a way, because it made me feel life is there's so much interesting things in the daily life. Before, when you just feel your life is work and home, just like that. But now I feel like even just to go to a grocery shop to buy a little thing, and the guy is taking account on paper and calculating everything with hand. Like I like this old way of living.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like you're living, and you feel like you can talk to the person who serves you. You can make friends, and you can really feel the human warmth, which I have not felt. Even for my whole life, I've not felt something like that. Um, so this definitely shifted my idea of fashion, because make me feel that, make me envision like the thing that I want to do in fashion into a lifestyle brand, because I really want to do something that could pull people away from the digital world, to like kind of over like kind of rebalance people's relationship with human being, through fashion. This could happen. So basically, Italian lifestyle could be also a fashionable lifestyle, if you understand how to create a fashion lifestyle brand, how to make something fashionable. You can use this magic wand to do everything. So yeah, I feel like definitely Italian lifestyle. Let's say it's Italian lifestyle, but it's just a very traditional lifestyle which we have lost. But Italian people are so, they're so protective of their culture, so they remained, and they're proud of it. For us, we come here to enjoy ourselves. At the same time, we discover, like, despite the digital world, there is so many things you can do in your life. With the traditional way of living, you really feel a human being, and I hope this could be part of the philosophy of my fashion brand. Yeah, so.
Wow, you said so many things that I'd like to go back to, but the first one I think I want to ask you about is what's wrong. The first question I want to ask, it's a hard one, is what is wrong with fashion today?
Yeah, I think just that fashion is now dominated by subculture, and subculture were never part of mainstream culture, although many of them became mainstream nowadays, but they remain with the young generation. And people, when they go to middle age or higher, for them, just that they're more into luxury items, and luxury items are timeless and durable. They're not considered fashion items. Yeah, and also fashion are so fast that they change every season, and it's really for small amount of people who want to change like that, and they produce so much and they pollute so much. A lot of people who are are conscious about the environment are not buying anymore. There also aesthetical reason. A lot of people think fashion are becoming ugly, and because I understand the creation of fashion has been based on contemporary art, not like before where it was based on kind of certain like really have taste, like now the fashion school, basically all the approach is based on contemporary art. There are many movements, and one of the movement is that ugly is fashion, and for them it is not wrong.
Yeah.
It's fashionable to be ugly. So after I studied in fashion school, I start to understand how like a lot of new terms, a lot of new things, but every time I still want to go back to the original topic that even if you have so many new movements or so many terms where you can justify ugly fashion, but still you have to sell to the majority of the consumers all over the world, and what if you sell something ugly? Unless the people they love ugly things, um, and they unless they're just following the trend without thinking too much, but it still target at the small amount of people. Plus now there is this, after the pandemic, people are caring less and less about fashion, because also when people go too much into the digital world, you would care how you dress in the computer games instead of how you dress in reality.
Yeah.
And there are all these reasons, that make fashion industry just kind of not doing well like before. And there remain like kind of quite relying on Asian market, where Asian people, for actually for them, they're not, the fashion does not even originate from Asia. They just wear this thing because they probably look good with the logo. It doesn't mean that these brands are really successful by selling to the Asians, in my opinion. And Asians should start to develop their own fashion. And once that starts, they will not buy Western brands.
Yeah.
And so this is one thing. Yeah, so I feel like fashion has to be more down to earth, has to really go into the life, has to really understand the daily life of the people. What do they really need? What do they really want to wear? The designer has to really go to the everyday woman, just women who go to work. What do you want to wear? Now the designer, they don't talk to people. They just stay in their own world. They say, "Oh, I'm inspired by a beautiful trip I had to Maldives or something like I did this strange thing." No, it's okay to share, to put all your stories into your collection. But that is, for me, it's a contemporary art piece. It is not something that you really do for the client, for the working woman. And I think that is really the approach that is changing, that is different. Yeah.
I know you're also, in addition to sort of and I like what you just said, because I think it's important. I do think that, you were speaking about how you were looking for a bag that could hold your laptop and also function as a bag, right? And so, but you also wanted something that probably looked good. And I think that's fair, and that was comfortable, and maybe didn't sort of, when you wore it, you could either, do a crossbody or maybe adjust it, whatever, or put it, as a backpack. And I think that, our society has changed so much. I think about, myself and not having, I don't go into an office anymore. And, to come here, I have, my bag, and then I also have my other bag, which has like all my podcast equipment in it and stuff. And so our needs, fashion also needs to respond to the fact that we maybe are, spending more time, yes, maybe less time sort of in a formal office environment, because there's been a big shift there. So there needs to be maybe, I don't know, you need versatility, comfort, durability, weatherproofing. So there are all these things that you need to be thinking about. And sometimes I think you're right. I think sometimes fashion feels, especially high fashion, feels very unreachable. but not only because of a price tag, but also because it just does seem like a piece of contemporary art. So something that is beautiful, right? But absolutely, unthinkable as a choice. I want to talk. I want to get your opinion because we've talked about this a little bit, and I want to hear what you think of Generation Z. You're studying, so you're spending, and I think it's really. I wanted to say this before. I'm really happy. I like the approach that you took. You didn't. You have a math background. You have a business background. You could have just started a business, right? But no, you wanted to learn fashion. And so that's admirable that you took this very intellectual approach to to the dream, okay? But I also know that now that you've been back in this environment, right? What has it been like for you to see what's important to young people today and especially to young people who are studying fashion? Because these are the people who ostensibly are going to be determining our fashion choices, right? So what's important to Generation Z? What are your schoolmates saying?
Important, you mean in terms of
Fashion.
in terms of fashion,
Yeah.
like what is important to them. So for them, I think the main difference between Gen Z and the previous generations are that they are like 100% aware of sustainability.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I was kind of a little bit shocked. Like every one of them were so they're so conscious of it, of what the pollution of the environment, the global warming that they have experienced, that like some impact that the previous generation has created, that they have to bear. They really don't want it to be repeated. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that Generation Z does not buy fast fashion brands. They buy from Shane and billions of euros.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of dilemma in a way that they are at conscious they want individuality, but at the same time they really care about community. They really care about how their peers think about them. They really want to be. They don't want to be missed out for anything. They want to dress the same way, you know. So it's a generation that, in my opinion, character-wise, it's it's very diversified. It's difficult to kind of generalize that they're all like this or that. But I feel that brought up in the digital world, their attention span is very short. So in terms of what they see on Instagram, what is trendy, it can change from one day to another, and maybe after a few months they're not interested in that fashion anymore. They shift it, and just because one celebrity did something like that. I mean, I feel that it's kind of uncertain, but at the same time I feel like certain movement has to start within the young people, some cultural movements or some subculture movements, some new movements, because now people always go back to the 90s, 80s, 70s. Always,
it's sad. It's a little boring now,
yeah,
right?
it's like you always go back for because you don't have anything new. And I feel like, also my personal opinion, to bring Oriental culture to the Western world could add something new, like
Yeah, and then and there you get into these thorny situations because people speak of cultural appropriation, and
that's true. I know that I can see that the Japanese culture is being very popular among the young generation, and that could kind of give birth to a subculture. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about, let's just create a subculture out of nothing, what is the material, or what's possible to create a subculture from the Italian culture in Florence for the young generation. Something has to happen, because now there's not so much things dictating this generation except TikTok and TikTok videos and celebrities. That is very sad.
It's very grim. It's grim. It's a sad landscape if you don't look beyond that, but those images are so dominant,
Yeah.
How do you escape that? I mean, how do you, for example, how can you change something like that? Like you can't, a movement can't just materialize out of nothing, right? And social media doesn't seem like it's going to be going away anytime soon.
No, we can only utilize the good fact of social media where it's kind of you can spread message very fast and it can create online community like no matter how distant you are. I think leveraging the good part to create a good movement.
Yeah.
But the movement has to be done physically. Social media can be the communication tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I still feel like yes, nothing has not been really done for the Gen Z yet because probably they're just turning 20. They're just they're in terms of age they're easily influenced. When they become 25, I think certain things definitely will happen. And and also I feel like definitely TikTok it's so sick about how China-based company want to use this media, like kind of make everyone kind of obsessed with it, and also TikTok has some logic to make people addicted, and I really don't like it. I really like a boycott TikTok, um, and plus a lot of algorithm in TikTok could be kind of controlled by the China government, so not directly by the government, but kind of. But I can see these things because I was born in a communist country, and I can see these things.
Yeah.
Like what kind of video they promote on TikTok.
Yeah.
To brainwash people, to make people stupid, to make people think less, and to promote China, things like that. It's very obvious to us, but it's still takes time for the Western, especially the young people, to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't spend very much time on TikTok, but I based on a lot of what I've seen and heard, that resonates with me. As we're coming a little to the end of our conversation, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So one is, what's next for Vea? So you've got all these plans. You want to change the world of fashion. You want to not only bring humanity to fashion, but also bring healing to what we wear and really make not like a lifestyle, like everything's a lifestyle today, but really, there's authenticity in what you say. There's truth in what you say, and it's very clear that it's a vision of yours, and it's that you have a commitment. But how do you see yourself moving forward, and do you see yourself staying here in Italy to do that?
Yeah, so definitely to create something that I want, I say definitely we need team, and now I think I already found some of the most important partners for my business, and now we're starting from accessories by collaborating with craftsmen, and in the by just from starting a brand, let's do little by little, and I definitely think all the things I was saying is not only the effort of one person. I could be just inspire someone to work on it together, or I believe there is definitely not only me working on it, someone else could be in parallel, um, but um, by starting fashion brands, I think it's the concrete way to envision all this, kind of put all my vision into practicality, where you can see the message, the soul, the energy in this brand, and the product that we're doing. And we really want our products to attract people through the energy that the product itself has the energy to attract people,
Mm-hmm.
not by logo. So that is that is currently what I'm trying to do, and I really hope like in the few years time we can see the result.
Absolutely. And so you're staying here. The goal is to stay here and to work on it here with local craftsmen.
Yeah, and actually the team members are not really local.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I feel like, yeah, definitely people from different countries have different advantages, and bringing foreign talents to Florence to work on projects, important projects, I think is also very important. Yeah, because you understand that why Atelier cannot grow like a big company. There's also reasons. Um, Italy is kind of uh, like Florence, Florentine could be provincial,
Yes.
but the good part of provincial is they're very traditional.
Exactly. And you want to preserve those traditions.
Yes, so you have to kind of put people in the place that they can do the best.
Exactly. So foreign investment, vision, people coming in, and I think that's what you've fallen in love with, and what you're seeing happening, or what you see the potential here for. So in other words, can we find a way where we keep these traditions alive? We elevate these
Yeah.
artisans. We create products that are desirable, but also that have a story.
Yes.
It's not only the story of the craftsperson, but it's also that that person is happy,
Yeah.
and that they have, a place in the world, and that's their métier, the way you used to really speak about a mestiere in Italian, being an artisan, having pride in that. And so that energy then is embodied in, the pair of pants or the beautiful shoes you're wearing that I just noticed. I'm obsessed with shoes. Anyway, I hope that you'll come back, and we can talk about how things are going.
Yeah.
Because I think there are so many things that could potentially happen here. I love the idea we were talking even before sitting down to record the podcast about how, there needs to be a social movement. Okay, where could it possibly be? Where is it going to happen? And what is it going to be? And, speaking about how right now it feels like there is a need for that, and so hopefully you can make it happen with your brand, and you'll be able to come back and tell us all about it.
Yeah, I really, really hope so.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima volta. Grazie, Vea.
Grazie, Fosca.